is that when with a woman who has hormones, when those hormones go high, there is a lifestyle change that needs to happen. And, this is what my new book that'll come out, Fast Like a Girl, is really teaching, like, how do we fast around these hormones?
Okay.
And I feel like that also is the new wave that we need to talk about. When we talk about customizing our lifestyle for our hormones, we need to look at when hormones go high, there's a lifestyle change. When they drop, we usually can do a few things a little different, but it's in the, like you said, ovulation a week before our periods that we really have to shift.
Absolutely.
So how do we use genetics to tie into those two parts of the cycle?
Great question. Well, today I actually had a client here who's been a client of mine for almost 2 decades, and we graduate them, but they come back and they check in with us. She had a full hysterectomy at 25, had her gallbladder taken out in her early 30s. She was been on thyroid medication forever. She used to be a size 16. Now she's a size 4. She's not on thyroid medication, right? So what we found for her is her genes. She had a multiple array of fat metabolism impairment genes. MTHFR, C677T, that goes to how you break down hormones, how you break down fats. The VDR TAC gene, how do you make vitamin D and assimilate it, because that's a hormone precursor. The APO gene, I know we talk about APO as an Alzheimer's genes, but it's also cholesterol genes. That's a fat metabolism impairment gene. She also had an oxalate metabolism gene. So oxalates build that oxalic acid, which builds biofilm, which is a fat, which then feeds candida and strep and all those things, which then disrupt insulin, which is a fat storage hormone.
Right.
So and then you have the INSR gene, which is what is your insulin receptor gene. So we look at all those genes and we say, how are they dancing together? And what's so fascinating, Mindy, is that she would always have GI issues because she would dump fat because her body couldn't metabolize the fat. She was on thyroid medication. It was hurting her. Yeah. She's now off of all thyroid medication. She takes a tiny bit of pregnenolone. It manages everything for her.
Yeah. Amazing.
So it's really fascinating that the body has this incredible ability to do what it's supposed to do if we're not sabotaging it.
Right. So the other thing I know about genetics, hormones, is that there are a class of toxins that dramatically shift the way that our genes express themselves, the way that our hormones, and the biggest one is heavy metals. We do a ton of heavy metal detoxing. I've watched thousands of people detox in very different ways. So talk a little bit about where detox comes in, because you have okay, yes, the genes determine how you're going to detox, but we also have that the toxins are going to impact the genes. It's sort of a double-edged sword, correct?
Absolutely. Absolutely. So let's talk about the genes that impact liver detoxification. Okay. So we've got multiple. There's a family of genes called the CYP450 family of genes. That's an umbrella of 450 SNPs that goes to phase 1 liver detoxification. Under that, you've got the PON1 SNP that goes to how you metabolize chemicals and perfumes. You've got the CYP2D6 gene, I have it, which goes to how you metabolize, believe it or not, turmeric. If you take turmeric and you have that gene, you're totally scruggled. It can slow your detox. It can slow your detox.
I love that term. I'm so going to use it.
By up to 50%. My kids used to make fun of me because I couldn't eat curry. I'm like, now I know, kids, I got the CYP2D6 gene.
Yeah.
Get that curry off my plate. And then, so another thing that has to do with heavy metals is not just about detoxification, but there's another piece called the HFE gene, which goes to, are you prone to hemochromatosis? That is iron overload. Guess what, folks? Iron is a heavy metal. Iron also will become a lipid-like oxidative stressor that will increase your pathogenic load, because these pathogens like to feed on iron. So when I look at heavy metals, I also look at what is your body's ability to process fat along with your detoxification genes, because heavy metals hide in lipid layers.
They hide everywhere. They hide in fascia, they hide in lymph, they hide in nervous tissue. They
do, but they encircle it, they encase themselves in this little film, right? That's why we have to chelate, right? And so some of the chelators that I use, believe it or not, salts, emulsifiers, vitamin C, if you don't have a lot of oxalic acid, they hide everywhere. I work with a lot of MS. It was copper toxicity for a woman, and we figured out, where is this coming from? She did pottery, and copper was in the kiln.
Oh yeah, no, some of the worst heavy metal tests I've seen have been with artists, like drawing, like people who are like painting or been doing ceramics. It's really interesting.